2005, since AXA always had the customer at the core of the strategic agenda. So the debate was generational. So probably the discussion was baby boomers would not be a digital type of customers, whereas Generation X, Y, I guess you remember those days, no? Then it became more complicated, no? Because we realized that technology was taking over. So it became a matter of channels. So there will be the digital channel, the non-digital channel, no? And now we are in a further complex reality where you have a higher degree of complexity, because even the channel that in case of claims are used by the customer can be in some steps digital, in some steps with human touch, no? So we have to put some order then this if we want to take the right decision. So the first is customer centricity. So at the center of the agenda is the customer. Customer centricity means something very simple to us. The customer must be happy. So how do you make your customer happy? So there's an interesting quote from Henry Ford. No? It said, real progress happens only when advantages of a new technology become available to everybody. Okay? So this is a little bit the sense of our strategy. So to make some examples, you have the EFNOL registration channel. So of course there are some users, I guess most of us probably, considering the type of audience we have today, who are more familiar in having an app, submitting the claims information document through an app, and unless it's necessary, do not need any kind of help, no, by somebody. But at the same time, there's customers who prefer to go to the branch because they have this, I like something that was mentioned before, a sense of anxiety for the claim. So they want to see somebody, say, but my car is important, so I would like to see somebody from the company. But at the same time, these customers are not completely illiterate from a digital standpoint, because they prefer the human touch, but they use WhatsApp. So how do you do? So you see, it's more complex. So, or another example, so you want to request a service. Now, for example, you know we have not only claim services, but you can have pick up and drop off for your car service or other services that you can book. So how do you book them? Some people want to have an app and book them directly themselves. Some other people want to call the call center to ask, so what's going to be the workshop? When are you coming? How are you picking my car up? So at the same time, there's still a number of digital tools embedded in this journey. So the answer is probably no matter what is the degree of human touch in our processes, that is still a major component, because again, some clients are happy only if they can speak with somebody. And this is perfectly understandable, and we need to service this client as they want. But if you look at the rest of the journey, even of this client working in the branch, they will find somebody sitting interconnected with the claims application, which is digital, having probably some of the accessories application that needs to be done on some of the process steps, which are digital. His documents will be scanned and processed through OCR, which is digital. So it's a human touch. Let's say it has become a little bit, I don't want to banalize that, because again, for us, it's at the center of our strategic agenda. But human touch is a kind of a front-end application today. So you have a number of ways to communicate and human touch. Nevertheless, again, the customer needs to be happy. So this is the complex probably task we have in being so sensitive to understand which customer prefer one, which customer prefer the other, and which customer prefer both.
I think I love that answer. It's optionality, really. And I'm a millennial, so you mentioned baby boomers and Gen X and Gen Y and Z and ABC. But even as a millennial, I'm now considered on the older side now that you have the new generation, right? I'm 30. But when I look at myself talking to Emirates NBD, who we all love, in tools like Ava, for example, if I had a problem with my credit card, I don't want to talk to the AI. I want someone to listen to me so I can fix my card. So the optionality of having someone actually listen to you in insurance is very important. In fact, I think recent research showed that people, the moment they file their claim online with a web app, immediately call the insurance company to make sure if they got the claim or not. So it just makes it kind of funny. Noor, going back to you, we've talked a lot about several lines of business. What, in your opinion, is What are the lines of business that you think urgently need disruption right now in insurance?
Yeah, I want to first second Paulo's comments. I think that's very interesting and absolutely right. We need to know what the customer wants, right? And if we talk about technologies and you know, chatbots, and it's not necessarily what everybody wants, and it's what many people want, and probably the trend is going towards that. But along the way, we don't want to lose the kind of people that still want the comfort of talking to somebody, meeting somebody, and maybe having a piece of paper in the hand and all of this. So I think it's a really good point, and I would second it very much. As for the disruption, I guess all sectors need disruption. And if it doesn't come from within, it will get torpedoed from outside. But disruption is coming. And we particularly took on the motor insurance sector because there's a lot of things to be done there, right? So you have first of all, on the fraud level and on the risk level, there's a lot of room for improvement, a lot of issues that need to get resolved. There are multiple stakeholders when it comes, starting from an accident, talking about public property or private property, or multiple people that could get involved. And then when it comes to the claim management and all the services associated with that, like you mentioned, conflicting interests throughout the same process, and across workshops and supplies of spare parts and the loss adjusters, and how the valuation is done, and how can we help the loss adjusters be more efficient and support them with the right data to make the right decisions, and how can we make sure that all the data coming from these human interactions is trustworthy. So how can you evaluate that, all the quality control around that. So here, and at the end of the day, it's also around the personal asset, right? So as opposed to health maybe, or to other types of insurance products, when it comes to the vehicle, there's a personal gain with an immediate asset that's under your personal control. So also the room for fraud is quite significant. And that's why we are looking very focused on that sector first, to try to iron out all these issues and support with creating a value chain across all these different touch points. But if the question is which sectors need to be disrupted, I guess I would say all of them. Yeah. But,
it's a fantastic answer. I'm conscious of time. I see a lot of hungry faces. So Jim, we've got one last question for you. And it's going back to balance, right? How do you balance? You've got a customer that needs to be happy. You've got an insurance company that wants to maintain the loss ratio. You've got very rigid policy wording. So the question is, how would you balance commercial policyholder demands, or even retail policyholder demands, with insurance policy wording in an increasingly competitive landscape? That's a tough one.
It is a tough one, thank you. I think probably COVID actually has made everybody realise the value of insurance. You know, COVID BI has been subject to discussion across the globe. You know, should insurers pay, shouldn't insurers pay? We all work in the insurance industry and say, well, we never intended to insure a pandemic. That's ridiculous. It's far too much. But actually, if I'm a business owner and I've got a clause that says I'm covered for disease, that's exactly why I insured. So I think there is a real challenge for the industry in getting people interested in the policy wording when they buy the product. No one cares about insurance, including me. You know, I just buy my policy and off I go. But if I'm running a business, it's really, really important. I can give you a practical example. I've got a loss at the moment, loss potential 100 million dirham. They haven't insured BI. I think I'll probably settle it for 2.5. But I am having to help them on the loss of business, the business interruption, even though it's not insured, because if I don't, it's going to be a major drama. And I think insurers need to look at the services they're providing, not just the financial value in the policy for a commercial policyholder. They know how to run their business. They don't know how to recover after a fire or a flood, or in this case, a collapsed building. So I think the nature of insurance will change, and it will become far more service-driven than just a mechanism to give some money. So that would be my answer in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. I think, in a way, the future of loss adjusting or of insurance policy wording in general is, instead of legalese, some form of universal cover, that if I'm a business owner, a small business owner, Khalas, I'm giving you money, you cover me, full stop, you know, unless I do something bad. And I think we're a bit far away from that, but it's great to see other loss adjusters thinking in this capacity. We are overboard for time, and I just want to say thank you to all of the panelists here today, and thank you guys for being patient with us while listening to a very complex discussion about claims. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We discussed with the
It is indeed a long day, and finally it's time for a hale and hearty lunch break. Forgive me for the delay. We shall resume our conference at in about 30 minutes. Enjoy your scrumptious lunch served in the foyer area. Thank you. discussions. Before that, a special mention of our Insuretek esteemed sponsors. Insuretek 2022 is sponsored by Gold Sponsors, Motori, Bupa Arabia, Apex Auto Garage, and Ablera. Silver sponsors, EY and Solera Auditex. Delegate bag sponsor, eBow Tech and Insure MO. Badge and lanyard sponsor, Now Health Insurance. Now Health International. Registration area sponsor, Decadu. Bronze sponsors, Al Watba National Insurance Company, GRS Complex Claims Solutions, Instenda, XA Group, Fidelity United, Salama. Technology partner, Azentio. Lunch and coffee sponsors, Tractable, Yalla Compare. Consulting partner, AJMS Global. Conference session sponsors, Al Buhaira National Insurance Company and Insure to Oasis. Associate sponsors, Braxton, Fishtey & Co., FMC Network UAE. Our supporting associations, Emirates Insurance Association, Gulf Insurance Federation, Insurance Business Group, and DIFC Insurance Association. Media partners, Dataflog, Private Banking, Prim Publications, Al Morakeb Group, Premium, Insurance Monitor, Washington Elite, and Marasi News. Innovation and technology are the key drivers of change in any industry, and insurance sector is no different. Digitalization, as we know, has made an impact on the sector, facilitating greater opportunities for data collection and fraud detection that can lead to better risk identification and mitigation measures. Through our topic, how is technology driving competition in the insurance sector, our panelists will contemplate on the role of technology in the insurance sector, especially health. They will also reflect on cost reduction and customer retention strategies in the insurance sector, opportunities and challenges, and finally, giving us some tips to mitigate fraud in the insurance sector. To take the panel discussion forward, I invite on stage Ms. Nancy Murad, MD, Life Speak Inc. A round of applause, please. Welcome, ma'am. Next, I would like to call upon our first panelist, Mr. Ali Farid Lutfi, Head of Payer Regulations, DHA. A round of applause, please. Next, I would like to call Mr. Talal Baya, CEO, Bayzat. Next, I would like to welcome Mr. Peter Sami, Director, UHG. Next, I would like to welcome Mr. Zahir Sharif, CEO, Now Health International. Now I would like to welcome Mr. Nabil Shanawani, AGM, ABNIC. Can we have Mr. Ali Farid Lutfi, Head of Payer Regulations, DHA, on stage? A warm welcome. And finally, I would like to welcome Mr. Joe Howick, Head of We Health Aetna. A round of applause, please. Requesting our moderator to kindly take over the session.
Hello? Test. Yeah, that's better. Great. Are microphones working from your side? Yeah? Okay. Is Nabil missing? There you go. All right, I guess we can start. So, good afternoon, everyone. I know post-lunch panels are usually the hardest to focus on, so we're gonna try to keep it as lively as possible. We lost a person along the way, which is Talal. He had to leave us because he has something else and we're a bit delayed. But we're left with an amazing panel of leaders in the insurance industry today. So thanks for the intro by the team. I think the purpose of today's discussion, and I would love really to, I'm sure you've been hearing the whole, since morning, you know, talk about technology and how technology is doing this and that, and so many technical pieces about technology and the insurance industry. We want to be able on this panel to step back a little bit and really think a little bit more of the people we are servicing in the industry, the human, you know, the end user, the partners we work with, the providers, you know, everyone that the insurance industry is servicing in a way or another. And truly remember that everything we're doing in technology is for some reason to help that person to improve their societal well-being, irrespective really of the technical part, right? We have seen in the last few years, we all, I think, since COVID, but also before that, there's a fast pace of life. Everyone has been really aware of a lot of struggle in our lives. The word empathy has become probably one of the most used words in the last 2 years, but also for a certain reason. And I think I'm a strong believer in the fact that, you know, the private sector has a lot to play when it comes to improving the well-being of people they service, particularly insurance as an important stakeholder of financing access to care, but also what is the role of the government to facilitate this type of interventions that we all look forward to. So the question that I think I would love all of our guests today to answer is, each of you is leading a very significant, you know, part of your business. You are all influential in a way or another in your space, and I'm sure you are using technology to service either your end consumer or your middle stakeholder, your partners, the people you work with. So the question is gonna be really simple. What are you guys focusing on the most that you really want to shed light on that is optimizing the quality of life of the people you service, that is optimizing maybe the way they're doing business, whether it's a piece of tech or simply a process that you're focusing on in general optimizing? Peter, I'm going to start with you. So if you tell us a little bit more what you guys do at United Health when it comes to this market and your international business, and how are you leveraging technology to improve care in a way or another?
So in United, the message we believe in is providing everyone with access to health care of a quality and at a cost that's fair and effective. We want to make all the people that we deal with, all our clients and partners, have that feeling of certainty in very uncertain times. And in my opinion, in the last couple of years, we've learned a lot from the pandemic and how access to virtual health and tech can make a change in the lives of people and can save us in situations that we never experienced it before. And through the years, we built systems that enable members to access those networks. We built systems to analyze the data and to understand how we can reach not just cost reduction, but at the same time, we make the members understand what kind of health care they are accessing to. So one of the very simple things that we've done in our...
So Peter, what exactly do you guys do and how are you doing? Like, what is the business model and how are you improving in that area?
Okay. I would need too much to talk about United Health Group, but I'll talk about the business that I work for, which is the US NAS, or the US Network and Administrative Business. So we work as a US TPA. We work with insurers, TPAs, governments to give their members access to the US healthcare system. And through that, we enable them to get treated for conditions that may have some advanced treatments in the US. And at the same time, we save them money. So we have developed a huge network that has around 1.4 million physicians, thousands of hospitals and labs, and lots of virtual tech solutions. And through that, we are able to save around 50%, 55% of the cost. But how this is happening, it's mostly through technology and how we use the data and analyze the data.
Awesome. So you guys use the data that you have about providers, I'm assuming, and that data is in a way to look at the quality of care, but also the cost effectiveness of it, right? And you kind of help the patient or the partner you work with to be driven into that direction versus another?
Yes, 100%. So
any challenges there when it comes to the data cleanliness, like communicating it?
Challenges are always there, but it's about how to deal with them. So I think every challenge can be turned into an opportunity. So definitely when we started the systems, we discovered things that we can develop. And every day we are coming up with ideas because we discover things that can be done better. And we are not alone into that journey, but we work with providers to understand. So we have to communicate with providers in not just in the US, but globally. So during the pandemic time, we've been talking with players like Mayo Clinic, for example, to understand what they need and how we can serve our members in a better way to get them to access healthcare quickly and not to lose lives. So challenges will be there, but it's about how to deal with them.
Awesome, which brings us back to the whole idea that really off the tech part, it's all about how you build this ecosystem of relationships that allows you to, yes, leverage technology, but allow the human part behind it to make it meaningful, more meaningful in that way. You mentioned telehealth, so I'm gonna move to Joe Hwayek from Aetna, who leads V-Health at Aetna and who hasn't been somehow hearing or using telemedicine since, mostly March 2020. So we hear, Joe, a lot about improving, access, let's say, by increasing the ability to someone to see some, like, doctors without having to travel or go abroad or go there beyond their house. We also hear other matters around this topic. Maybe you want to talk about telehealth or something else you're doing, but would love to hear how digitizing your business has been impacting the human side of this whole industry.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nancy. No, very much so. Access is the key here. Just like Peter is saying, just like Nancy is saying, it's the access to the correct type of care, the access to the appropriate care, not just access. We're not battling with a, let's say, rural environment where there's long distances to the doctors. For example, in Dubai, there is more doctors per square foot. It is a large number of them, but the access means here access to the appropriate type of care. So you'll be familiar with a scenario where a, let's say, insurance member or an insured member is, let's say, an expat living in Dubai. They might not know the healthcare system. They might not understand the language. So they will ask their colleague or business partner of where to go for a certain specialty area. And they would go. And they would come back because they have self-diagnosed. It is not exactly what they needed. And this is where Aetna, through creating V-Health, virtual health, has put the technology tool in the hands of this customer to be able to not just look up information, but to speak to a real licensed doctor who are from our team. They are based in Dubai. They understand the environment. They understand the prescription, let's say, environment. They understand the conditions and medical conditions that are prevailing here. And they know where the specialist providers of the right quality, of the right caliber are available. So through technology, now, it was interesting, Peter, just before we came up here, asked me a simple question that really sparked this thought that technology shouldn't be yet another barrier or another hurdle for us to access. You know, I want to watch a movie, and first I have to install Netflix, and then I have to get an account, and then I have to do all of this. It should be seamless. And so, and for the people who are not even tech savvy, let's say, or technology experienced, or even regard themselves as users of technology, the service should be so accessible that it even caters for someone who doesn't even own a smartphone, let alone doesn't need to install an app. So it should be accessible to the most basic user, and the way we've done it, that as long as someone's able to pick up and answer a phone call, not even make a dial it. So they would provide their phone number and be by their phone at the time of their doctor appointment. All they need to do is answer the phone. That's the basic one, and everybody is able to access the service this way, all the way up to some technology, let's say tools and more. So the ones who would choose to, they can install an app to book their appointments, to view their doctor profiles, to be able to see their own medical record, including all of the previous prescriptions and lab tests that they've done, and all of this is available and enriches the virtual health service, but isn't necessary, isn't a condition for them to be able to access care.
Interesting. So the hurdles, I love how you even took it beyond installing an app, like even minimizing the friction to the least possible, and then maybe taking the user through additional steps in that journey, but as long as you had captured them somewhere, you know, along the way. I think we will have some time to talk a bit more about in what cases telecare works or it doesn't, or what kind of amplification it offers to the existing model, maybe not to replace it, but, you know, to amplify it. We will talk about this maybe in a bit. So Zahir, I know you guys do a lot of work at Now International Health. What are mainly the areas that you guys are focusing on to improve the journey, whether for your providers, your consumers, you know, the employers you work with?
Yassi, thank you. Can you hear me? First of all, good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who do not know who Now Health is, we're a IPMI company, International Private Medical Insurance, and we focus on global mobility, making sure that expats can move their healthcare around the world with ease. In terms of where we focused, I think there's three real priority areas. I'll leave regulation and reg tech and all that to the side, but let's first focus on distributor experience. We try to focus heavily on our omni-channel platforms, where we drive a much better integrated relationship between underwriting and pricing and authority for distributors, by trying to make it easier for them to issue policies, sell, and have more delegated authority there. That's one area. In terms of the member space, we focused more on the digital membership card. I mean, it's not driven really by COVID, because we actually launched the first digital product with a full digital membership card way back in 2018 to try to digitize and get rid of all these plastic cards that people have to carry around. And with that, it was a secure online portfolio where people could have more visibility to their claims data to kind of understand what they're doing. There's so many people here who go to hospitals and come back and say, we actually don't know what's been billed. So we're trying to bring much more visibility in that area. And the three is the proposition. The third is the proposition where we're digitizing more focus and driving more digital focus on mental health. Because that's been, you all know the data, for those of us in the industry, is on the rise. And we're specializing, bringing more value-added services around mental health.
Awesome. How is that coming in the last piece for mental health? We all need
Well,
additional info there.
just put your hands up if you feel like you need it. I think mental health is one of the areas where we're going to see a lot more focus. Just you can speak to the E&Y guys here, and Jonathan, and data that you look at. It's significantly on the rise, and especially amongst the younger age groups who are struggling with dealing with COVID, mobility, travel, family. So it's going to be a big area of focus going forward. It already is.
Yes, actually, we do a lot of work on mental health with LiveSpeak, and we know from a data point perspective that at least 50% of people throughout their life, at least 50% will struggle one time in their life of a certain episode of mental health. The spectrum can be very wide, but when you look at the data, it's 50%, which is 1 out of 2. So I think it's an increasingly important topic to focus on. So, Mr. Lutfi, you are the head of the payer regulations for DHA, and I think we were talking a bit offline about all the amazing work that was done, through the COVID to regulate a lot of things that happened. But also, if we step back a little bit beyond that, what is the role of? We see a lot of work that the private sector does. What is the role that you guys try to play in facilitating, the life of Joe and Nabil and Zahir and Peter as they try to innovate along the way with this industry?
So, the quick, easy answer would be we'd like to take all the credit because we make them do it. No, I'm joking. So
it's a partnership. PPP.
No, exactly. It is. It's a partnership, and we learn from them, and they learn from us, and then we improve each other. But as a whole, to start from the very beginning, almost 10 years ago now, we launched the electronic claims platform in Dubai, which is known as eClaim Link. Was first, I think, of its kind globally, and we've received global recognitions from global firms on that account. And then where we are today, 10 years later, the amount of data we have, the transparency we have through patient journeys, clinical pathways, financial models. And you mentioned COVID. So that was something, a tool we were able to really tap into and use very quickly and keep us agile in making regulations and to see what's happening, whether it was from a clinical perspective, financial perspective, or even capacity and bed management perspective. Because we'd know how many patients are in how many hospitals around, where available beds were, and so on. Looking forward to the future, we're looking at, and it's been 10 years, technology changes on a daily basis. Most companies know, once you finally implement something, it's already outdated once it's done. So we're at that stage now where we're looking at the next 20 years, which we should be seeing some major changes in the next year and a half, inshallah.
Awesome. Yeah, survival and proactivity. So as far as technology is concerned, what are some examples you can tell us about, regulations that you've enacted or policies that you've done in the last couple of years to, facilitate the work along that trend?
So one main focus or I guess thing that we always keep in the back of our minds is we never want to impede our stakeholders, so both payers and providers side, on innovating. We never want to put out any regulations that will limit them. Some of the things we have done, and the easiest one that's most recognizable, I think, would be back in 2017, we mandated all insurers to ensure that insured patients could access their health insurance via Emirates ID. That medical insurance cards are optional. They're not mandatory, they don't need to, but someone has to be able to access via Emirates ID. And in order to do that, using technology, we enabled a platform in the back end that all medical providers have access to. They can put in someone's Emirates ID and see their policy details, who the payer is, the effective dates, if someone was deleted, they're still active or not, and so on.
Quite, I would say, upstream and impactful policy, right? Because it streamlines the whole industry access point, let's say, when you go into it. we were talking a bit before coming here about also some work I think you've done throughout COVID. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but I thought it was interesting. It's not necessarily tech related, more like regulatory to also somehow ensure that the end patient doesn't get penalized in the middle of a private sector where things can, you know, possibly go wrong.
So if you can spin it and make what we achieved possible due to technology. Again, the claims data and everything, we're very quickly able to see clinical guidelines and treatment protocols, price those, build packages for COVID, because obviously one of the main things in the early days, everyone was panicking. No one knew what it was, what to treat, how to treat, and everything. The federal guidelines from NCEMA said, okay, these are the severity levels. We priced packages. The obvious one as a payer regulator or financial regulator in the healthcare sector is we need to make sure everyone gets access to care when and where they need it. So the natural response was to get rid of medical networks. That's your first issue. Yeah, we have a large population, around 50–60% of blue-collar workers, limited number of hospital beds as is anywhere in the world. We can't have blue collars in an ambulance being taken to American hospital and then being rejected because it's not covered. So patients are our priority, and by being able to do that, we managed it across the board. Everyone got treatment when they needed, where they needed. And again, that was only possible due to the technology and the claims platform.
Awesome. So always thinking of the person and enacting the right strategy for them and leveraging the technology to kind of deliver on that, right? Thank you. Mr. Nabil, what can you tell us about what you guys are doing at Al Buhaira?
Thank you, Nancy. First of all, let's consider the major point related to our business, which is health insurance. You know, in health insurance, we are dealing with a human. So in many of the cases, or in all the cases, we cannot compromise. We have to give the best service to the person. We cannot say that, okay, keep this person, manage himself at his providers or something. So we have to be involved from the first step till he completes his treatment. Now, we have seen in the morning many presentations by the IT companies doing a lot of things to interesting actually solution to the people or to the insurance company to improve the service and the quality of service provided. But we want to say one word that the journey is very long. Still, a lot of things need to be done. We still see that a huge investment has to be put on this section to reach to the point where the person, when he goes to the clinic, he knows what is covered, what is not covered. The provider knows what treatment to be provided. All these issues are important to everyone to know. We at Al Buhaira Insurance Company looking to that point and to the quality of service provided to the members. Our concern is mainly if the person gets sick, he has enough burden. We want to help him to get his treatment and to live easily and safely without any headache. We wish to see the day that the person goes and there is nothing called approval is waited from the insurance company to take his treatment. It's not easy, but again, it's doable. I mean, it can be done if we improve the solution from the IT. We have from our side done a lot of things to improve that service and the IT solution. And thanks again to the regulators, we know, I mean, we cannot ignore the major role they have played to implement the technology to all insurance companies. I can simply say if there was no regulation, we'd have seen today a lot of insurance companies still working on manual basis and on traditional way of handling the claims. Now, since that deadline was put by the regulators to implement such things, we had, as an insurance company, done, and we know that all the market has implemented these rules. And this has impacted positively to the, let's say, safe and easy treatment to the members. So we are all in the same boat as an insurance companies and TPAs. We want the patient to get his treatment and to live without any hassle, without any troubles, without any problems at all.
Awesome. I want to, I mean, I think so far everything has been so inspiring, and I love that we are really focusing on the well-being of the community. And I'm sure there are some challenges along the way. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I want to highlight one challenge that I have faced, and I hear other people talk about in the industry and beyond, which is, a tech-related challenge in general, and that is the availability of the right talent. One, like pure technical talent, but also, the acumen on average in your teams to actually truly like understand technology, especially back to the point of Mr. Ali, which is, things are going so fast. Like you learn something and tomorrow something else comes up, and now we're all living, in what we're calling the metaverse anxiety, where everyone is trying really to learn that quickly. So how are you looking at training people? How are you looking at keeping up with that, challenge? Do you think there's a funding issue there for training people? Like, how are you looking at that? Joe, I think you want to.
If you like, my contribution to this is maybe controversial. Not everybody has to have the metaverse level of, let's say, technology appreciation, or the data analytics and artificial intelligence level, or the blockchain level of appreciation. Not everybody in your team, and indeed in your customer base also. The same goes for your customer base. Not everybody has to, and that's slightly controversial, because we think everybody has to move like a lockstep march towards modernity and the future in a technical way. So my career was all about the use of technology in the delivery of healthcare, but it is appropriate use of technology. And in, let's say, even my team, who is very, very passionate about the use of technology in the delivery of healthcare, but not all of them necessarily need to be at the same level. Some people are the builders of the solution. They pull together the component parts. Some are the designers of the solution. They pull together the logical relationship of these component parts. And some are maybe further ahead of the curve and are foreseeing what the future needs are, and they are developing the strategy for this technology. So, and that's fine. A different variety of skill sets in a technology team is fine, as long as you have all of these different parts together, working together.
Nice layered approach to it. Yeah, you guys wanted to comment on this?
Yeah, actually concerning the training, you mentioned it's an important. In our business, we feel, everything, there is something in you where you need to update your staff about it. Technology is one part. Now, in the technology, to be honest with you, now most of the companies are relying on outsource to do such development. They need somebody specialized to do that. So again, it's not required, as mentioned, that everybody has to be familiar with all the technology issues. But when it comes to the operations and the daily work, yeah, the training is required. And we do from our side daily meeting with our staff to update them, and for them also to update us on what they see every day and what's the best solution can be offered to the people.
Do you guys still face resistance, or you think we have reached a place where, the 90% has just got family friendly with, the systems?
I think there's still a bit of resistance, not on the individual or training capacity. One example I'll give is telemedicine. And one of our roles is always very important. Just because I've used the COVID example and the pricing in the past, we always have to maintain a balance between the end user, the patients, and the population's spend, and that economic consideration, the payers and their margins, and the providers. I don't want to say margins, but the economy of how the whole system works. It was a few years ago, we were looking at mandating telemedicine, for example.
Mandating, sorry?
Telemedicine. There's huge resistance from the payer market. Naturally, it's an incurred cost on them. It's an incurred expense, which will then be passed on to the policyholders. So me and you buying the insurance policy will go up because of that mandate. And there's huge resistance just because the long-term vision wasn't there to see it down the road in the reduction of claims. You don't need to walk into a specialist and pay $300, $600 on consultation to say, yeah, I'm still okay, the medication's still good. Give me my diabetes medicine that I've been taking for 7 years with no issues. You could make a phone call that costs nothing, costs 5 minutes to the provider, 5 minutes to your time, someone will deliver the medication to your house, reduce the cost drastically. And I think through COVID, that uptake, and we were talking about this earlier, it really created a lot of awareness around that, the use of it, and the positivity behind it, that it is actually beneficial and it's not something to be feared, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So that type of resistance.
Yeah, it's interesting how COVID really shifted the rhetoric from no to yes, please. Do you think, Ali, from your government view side, we have in this region enough tech talent? And when I say tech, I mean like back to Joe's layered approach, the very front and the actual developers. Like, I know the government has been doing a lot there, and let's talk about it, right? Like, if you don't have the frontline tech people who are building the system, it's also a big challenge because it will go back to the user, to the business, to the profit, everything, right? And it delays things, and we know how sometimes projects go on and on and on simply because of a failed architecture or something like that. If we don't, what do you think like could be done? Like, what's your view there?
I think at the moment we're okay, and if we're saying locally within the UAE, definitely not. I don't think anywhere, even if you look at the US, I don't think they have the talent. And luckily, we're very close to India. They like it because it's close to them, and most of that talent comes out of there. I think China's growing, Eastern Europe, I know, is going very big in that level. I think naturally, overall globally, and before it was be a doctor, be an engineer. Now people are shifting and pushing their kids, be a coder, be a developer, and focus on the IT side. So I think the supply of talent will grow with the demand.
Yeah, Nancy, so I really don't see talent as the issue there. I think it's just about what programs companies have in place. UAE as a country has made it extremely easy to bring talent in, number one. Number two, I think if you want to deliver technology, it's more about internally making sure you're clear about your ecosystems that you want. And I think having that time and dedication to train people is more the issue than just expecting people who have got technology background to deliver. So that's up to us. And I think in terms of the local talent, there's a lot more the private sector can do to work with universities to develop proper internship programs to bring people in young. I think that's missing, and that's something that we're trying to work with here at Now Health and trying to move.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea, and we always see it in the developed markets, whether tech, whether even healthcare, where you see doctors work in universities and do research. I think the academia and the corporate, they need to really closely cooperate. So, brilliant thought. Are you guys outsourcing by any chance? Like, do you look at India or other markets, where you have all the tech team internal?
No, you can't have all tech internal, right? So we outsource where we need to in terms of specialized expertise. So whether that's people that have got capability of building certain parts of our software, or whether we outsource some of our risk work, or whether we outsource some of our, what I would say, coding work. I mean, all this is basically looking at where the expertise lies. There's no such thing as having everything internal.
Yeah.
But that's part of the ecosystem of technology that you're going to work with.
It's a hybrid, right? Like you mix between, you have a team, but upon need, maybe you bring an external group that you bring on. Joe, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, it's the comments around the ecosystem that Zahir was saying. It's almost everything. Everything is so outsourced that even the term is maybe starting to become old-fashioned, because it's using the right skills located in the right places. They might not be all employed by the same organization you're employed in. Maybe that's besides the point. So a number of partnerships, and together form this ecosystem. What's important, we used to say that you want to keep in-house your strategic skills and your longer term, but that isn't applying in technology so much because it's so fast-paced and fast-moving. And so it's almost gone are the days of outsource where you give your problem to somebody else to solve. It's still your problem, but you're finding the right people to solve it with you.
Yeah.
Just to add one more point to what Zahir and Joe said. See, actually today we have specialized company in IT, so you cannot find the solution with one company. You have a company specialized in mobile application development, for example. Some people for medical claims adjudication. So you need to outsource most of the solution now for any medical department.
Interesting. Any additional thoughts? And I don't know if, so we still have maybe time for Q&A. I don't know if we're doing that. Anyone from the team? Otherwise, any final thoughts from like this whole discussion? Challenges, hopes, thinking in the future, blockchain.
You're gonna start on
I had to
blockchain,
bring
that's
it up.
Yeah, don't start that one. No, it's like, the blockchain world, I think Ali knows my view on that. So, look, it's there, but I think distribution, or should we say distributed ledger systems, or distributed ledger technology is a long way until we really get certain things in place to let that happen. But I agree with Ali earlier on, we were talking, that we've got to start with the basics. Yeah, we've got to start with the basics of making sure that the technology can integrate in the right places. I won't get into blockchain here. It is the future for sure, but I think we've got much more basic stuff today to focus on.
But tell me one thing, what do you think it will do to just simply competition in the insurance sector?
Well, look, in blockchain, I mean, how do you want to look at it? Do you want to look at blockchain from a trust perspective? I mean, an integrated system that can share data in a decentralized fashion where you can automate, allow people to verify, sign documents, verify who the individuals are, mitigate fraud, speed up the entire process of automating signature documents, or whether you want to integrate, it's a very wide topic. I think blockchain will drastically change the way we pay. It will drastically change the way we verify and we approve members. And there is an element of also to allow speed of service and speed of claims payments. But we're getting into a topic where, how big is this ecosystem? We could sit and talk about it for 2 days. But it's coming. But I think before we get to blockchain technology, I think it's more important to make sure our internal ecosystems of what we're trying to deliver to members are clear and working hand in hand with regulation to deliver what the local law requires.
Agree. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Any questions from people in this room? From the most basic to anything on your mind? Okay. There we go. You can have the mic if you want. Not much.
Thanks a lot. It's a very interesting discussion. We are moving, what we call the open finance era, actually. So insurance will not be by itself. Insurance will happen maybe at the edge. So it will be an open, maybe you can say embedded finance, embedded insurance, and so on. How do you see your business part of this, new era of open finance and open banking and so on? Because I don't think people will come to buy, insurance from an insurance company. This is what we think, when open finance is there. This will happen, seamlessly without knowing that there's an insurance company in the backbone of the transaction itself. Are, insurance companies technically and whatever are ready for this kind of open finance era? Thank you. I hope that the question is clear to you.
Anyone?
Open finance, APIs, integration with, ecosystem partners, with showrooms, with cars, with everywhere.
Yeah.
People will not buy insurance by itself, will not go and buy insurance to buy insurance. It will be part of the seamless transaction, as you say, part of open finance or open banking, API economy, and so on. Maybe Zahir.
If we want to talk about auto insurance, I think it's a separate topic. I think if affinity insurance, what we call affinity-related partnerships, has been there for years, and I think it's only going to work with technology integrating. It doesn't matter if it's finance, it doesn't matter if it's insurance, And I think UAE has been doing a lot of that with the automotive industry for many years. But it's going to get more sophisticated for sure. And again, is there an element that we can exchange data between the insurers, the reinsurers, and the networks of claims that are dealing with your garage repairs? There's a space for improvement there. But I think Affinity's been there in UAE. I've seen it's been there for 20 years and is still in a leading position in terms of what they do compared to many markets.
Okay, thank you.
No, I agree.
Questions? Do we have a question in the back?
Hi. On the topic of payments, traditionally most payments have been done in regular currency, as like we'll say dirhams and dollars. Do you guys see digital currency, we'll say on a regulated level, being accepted by insurance for insurance payments?
It's a great question. Do we see digital currencies being the future? I think before we even get there, I think the very simple issue is, do we see financial wallets coming first? Payment wallets. What I mean by that is today you're all making claims of 250 dirhams, $500, and you're asking the insurer to make the claim payment in a different country. Can you pay it in the UK? Can